No, I think I kind of got out my points of view there as I was talking too much, thinking to myself, stop talking and move it over.
Talking.
Don't
Stop
monologue.
Stop
Don't monologue.
What's the point? What am
Don't
I saying?
monologue.
What's the point?
Stop it. Don't monologue.
Stop. Don't monologue. Just say something. Say something and stop talking.
Get to the point. And this is Gatriarchs.
And this is Gate. Fuck.
So last night we got an assignment from my kids' class, and they're supposed to like listen to some recorded book or something like that. And then it was followed up from the teacher by a note that said, and also some children may find it easier to watch the broadcast at the same time that they're listening to it, whatever it is. I mean, I have no details on this except for the fact that my partner and I were howling as he's like, this just like podcasts. And I know, Gavin, you're in the podcasting world, so don't take offense to this. I'm like, that is never a good opener to a conversation. But he's like, it's just radio shows. It is 1936 again, and we're all just listening to the radio and sitting around the radio, and it may not be FDR giving his fireside chats, but podcasting is just radio shows. And now it's so meta that my kid is getting an assignment that, well, they might be bored by the radio show, so let's go ahead and turn on the TV. And it just is a funny way of life imitating art, but you don't think it's funny at all.
Well, your point is podcasts are radio shows. Yeah. What else do we say about that? You pushed me opening the show for your big thing, and that's what we opened with. All right, everybody. Well, if we haven't lost our listener yet, thank you for staying with us. No, I'm being a dick. But also, well, it's also like, but it's also, right. You see, every podcast has a video component now. So every podcast is just a YouTube video with microphones.
Right. We have moved on. Yeah, it's definitely not just podcasting. It's video streaming, whatever. Anyway.
I am a single dad. And by single dad, I mean my husband's out of town for 2 days. So I am not showering. I'm eating ramen noodles. Like, it's pure chaos at the house.
Just 2 days.
Well, here's the thing. I was like, I'm going to be cool dad. Like when one dad goes out of town, I'm going to be cool dad. We're going to stay up later. We're going to eat whatever we want, right? So last night, my son gets iPad time for, half hour, 45 minutes before we go to bed. And then we leave the last 15 minutes to 30 minutes to do something without an iPad. It could be reading books. It could be whatever. Well, I was like, I'm going to be cool dad. And I'm going to let him play with his iPad right up until bedtime. And as soon as it's bedtime, we just go right up to bed. How great will that be?
Oh, no, it's not. It won't be.
And I've learned my lesson.
It won't be.
I've learned my lesson because that boy went from happy, joyful 4-year-old to rageful, vicious animal.
Did he throw himself down on the ground?
No, but he did tell me, I'll never love you again. So I was literally like, hey, let's brush our teeth. And he's like, I'm never going to love you. He looked me right in the eyes. Wow. I'm never going to love you again.
Wow.
And of course I was like, yeah, brush your teeth. But it was like a old thing. So the bathroom was such a fucking battle that I had to start taking these away. I was like, all right, no books tonight. Okay, no iPad tomorrow. Like, shit was falling apart and he just could not. And it was my fault. It was my fault. That little built-in buffer that my husband created is so smart because it's not just like, I don't want you just rotting in front of the iPad. It's, I need a transitional moment. Yeah. Yep. And so David has learned his lesson and he will never have iPad right up until bed.
That makes perfect sense. Also, complete non sequitur related to iPads. I am taking my kids to the Taylor Swift movie. Because
you have spent more money on Taylor Swift than any dad in the world.
I know, it's embarrassing. And I'm getting no gratitude or appreciation for it whatsoever, just drama. And I thought it would be a historic experience that he would want to do. And now ultimately, and he was inviting a friend along. And then the friend poisoned his notions of it and was like, do we really want to stand in a room of a bunch of screaming Swifties screaming to the songs that we don't really even care about? And it was a strong point. Point is, that kid's dad said to me, I'm sorry to be a wet blanket, but my son would rather go without an iPad all weekend long than go to the Taylor Swift movie.
Wow. Wow.
I thought that was hilarious.
That is good.
So, I was curious about talking about how you cope with parental guilt, or just talking about how anybody copes with parental guilt, because basically parenting, in my view, is just one big guilt fest. I mean, kids ruin everything, and we scream, and we don't want to scream, but we scream. And there's so much guilt that comes from doing the right thing. What's the right thing? Who's saying the right thing, et cetera, et cetera. And social media is just a gasoline on top of this. But what are the things that make you feel guilty about parenting?
Nothing.
Okay. So
Nothing
how do you
all.
cope with that? Oh, never mind.
Nothing
You're guilt-free.
I feel amazing. No, of course. I feel guilt all the time. I felt guilt last night as I took his books away. I was like, I'm just taking literature away from my fucking 4-year-old. No, I feel guilty all the time. It's helpful that I have a husband who we are pretty aligned in our child rearing points of view. So like we'll often talk about it. I don't know. I don't feel guilty, honestly. I don't feel guilty often. There are 2 times in my life where like I wildly overreacted because I was tired and I was annoyed, and they had a normal meltdown, and I was just like, we always joke. It's always like the Beast. And Beauty and the Beast, when he's having the argument with Belle at the door about coming to dinner, and finally at the end, she was like, well, I'm not going. And he goes, then starve. We joke about that all the time because I get to the then starve phase of me all the time. But as far as like guilt, usually if it's like something big, like one time my toddler had a meltdown at the mall, and I like made him sit down to like for a timeout, but like I pressed him against the wall and I held him against the wall for the 4 minutes.
Right.
And I felt like fucking shit. So I just had some Auntie Anne pretzels and I felt much better about myself.
Of course. Well, I can't wait for our listener to message us on Instagram. And remember that on episode 5, you talked about being Beauty and the Beast, which is a great actually story. I like revisiting that. But it's crazy how we can feel guilt over absolutely anything and everything, to the degree of, I just think so much about sitting on playgrounds with other parents. And basically every single time they would talk about, well, this is what I do with my kids. It just made me feel guilty that I wasn't putting in enough time, effort, or focus all the time. And then on social, there's so many ways that we, like our guest Cece a couple of weeks ago, she does such a great job of kind of mocking those who are the humble braggers or the people who are instilling guilt. And yet at the same time, I feel like those who are making the rest of us feel guilty are louder than those who are like, hey man, we're all doing the best we can and nobody knows the right answer. Do you feel like social media is more things to make you feel guilty versus?
Yeah, but I guess I'm so poisoned from social media lately that I don't take any of it seriously. Every time I see something positive, all I think is like, that's all fake and nobody feels that way. So, and I also am drawn to, this is not a surprise because this is why we made the show, but like I'm very much drawn to the darker, more realistic, like funnier sides of things, and less the like, here's the bar that I need you all to be on, because I've mostly failed at every metric imaginable as a human being since I was born. So like this parenting poorly is not at all like, whatever. But I do feel it sometimes when it's at daycare and I witness another kid doing something way better than my kid.
Oh,
and I feel guilty that my kid isn't there. But no, I'm so social media doesn't affect me that way anymore. I'm so deadened on the inside to the joys of social media because I know it's fake. You and I both know people who are famous, who have social media empires, and we're like, those bitches are crazy and they just got divorced and they're sleeping. Like we know all of that stuff. So like it's hard for me to take any of that seriously. But the parenting guilt I do still feel is when I do something that I know was wrong, or I overreacted, or I hurt my kid somehow, and I need to apologize. And my husband's really good at that. He'll just like, hey, I overreacted. I'm so sorry. I'm a human too. Blah, 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 blah. But mostly, Gavin, what I'm here to tell you is that I'm pretty great as a parent, and I don't feel guilty about it.
So speaking of guilt, let's go to our top 3 list.
Gatriarch's top 3 list. 3, 2, 1.
What, David, will you remind me, is the top 3 list this week?
The top 3 list this week is the top 3 worst things.
Worst.
What are the top 3 worst things? And listen, that's a broad category. I'm interested to hear how you.
It is, but I do appreciate. I mean, because we go around saying, "Isn't that just the worst?" So, there are so many things that are the worst. So what? So
for me, here are my top 3 worst things. In number 3, this is a little inside baseball with the arts, but cats out of the bag posts. Hey guys, cat's out of the bag. Looks like I'll be making my Broadway debut, and merrily we roll along as the male offstage swing. So excited, and they attach a Playbill article. I cannot with that. Cat's out of the bag post. There has never been a cat's out of the bag post that was shocking. And like, how did you keep that cat in the bag? Nobody fucking cares that you're playing Lancelot at the Broadway dinner theater production of fucking Spamalot.
You have 5 cigarettes coming out of your mouth right now as you are so jaded and cynical.
But like, have you ever seen a cat's out of the bag post where you were like, oh, where you gasped that there was some new information that is so exciting that they had to keep under wraps because it was so important? Never one time. So number 3, cat's out of the bag post. Number 2, being wrong in front of your partner. Fuck. Especially if it's something you were kind of on your high horse about, and then you are wrong in front of them, so you can't hide, you can't spin it later. Like if you were wrong off screen, you know what I mean?
I think that's very much the worst.
Yeah. And number 1, my personal worst thing, let's say it's a Saturday and you're doing laundry and you're cleaning the house and everything is great and you're having a great day and you're working and everything. You fold your laundry, put it all together. Everything is wonderful. You put the kids to bed. You watch your hour of Survivor and you're really tired. And you're like, I've got to go to bed. And you crawl upstairs. You turn on that light and there, looking you dead in the eyes, is a bare mattress with the sheets piled, ready to be put on your bed. And you're like, I'm sleeping on the floor. I don't have the energy to make
I will
a
just
bed.
Drink, or I will just sleep on the bare mattress.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my number 1 worst thing. What about you, Gavin?
When you said bare mattress, I definitely heard BEAR, and I thought, wait, I mean,
like you're fucking a bear and this is his bed?
I guess so.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, for me, top 3, that's just the worst. Number 3. Number 3 in order of worstness is no apology. Somebody does something shitty to you and they just can't even have the self-respect or the respect for you to just like say, sorry about that. Yeah. And I live in Connecticut where I swear this is an ongoing thing for my partner and I, who is very much a local here, that it's just like, oh, sorry about that, doesn't exist in the Connecticut lexicon. I swear. Maybe it's just my own personal experience, but like there's no like, oh, sorry. The grocery store, bumping into people. Sorry about that. It's just, I find that to be
or even
worst,
a my bad. Like a my bad, like the kids say. Yeah.
My bad. Yeah. So I am one of those things that I'm instilling in my kids is being able to say, oops, sorry, my bad. Number 2, zits. Yeah. So I have a 12-year-old who is, dealing with some of that. And then sometimes I still get them. I am old. Zits. Sometimes not on my face. Listen, and they're all the worst.
Yeah, that was really disgusting, that little qualification, Gavin. But also the fact that this is a life travesty that people have pretended that zits are for tweens and teens.
Or nobody for people who don't take care of themselves.
Forever.
Yeah,
they
totally.
last
Forever. So I find them the worst, number 2. And number 1 for me, swamp ass. Specifically when it actually seeps through your pants.
Oh my God.
You have to walk around thinking, oh my God, is somebody, I do not wear khakis.
Is this sweat or shit?
I never wear khaki pants, ever, just on the off chance that I might sit in water and somebody will accuse me of it being swamp ass, because God forbid. So never, ever, ever. It's because swamp ass is the absolute worst.
Yes. All right. What's next week?
Next week, I want to hear about your 3 dad hacks that were total failures. You thought, I got this, and then you failed at it. So today's guest is a true indulgence for nerds and wannabe nerds, and not at all nerds, but just red-blooded American patriots who love the all-time greatest franchise of all time, Star Wars. He dreamed of making Star Wars movies when he was a kid, and unlike the rest of us all who failed at all of our dreams, he actually did it. Please welcome Hollywood producer and gay father, Jason McGatlin. Thank you.
Hello.
Welcome,
Jason.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I don't like being introduced as a dream failure, Gavin. I don't know. You might need to reframe that. I'm a big deal. I make $100 on TV. Do you understand that? That's a lot of money.
David, this is not the time for you to be submitting your latest script to Jason. He's already got projects
not
on
interested. Sorry. I write dick jokes only. That's it. Sorry. I have nothing more to offer you.
Hard to get those into Star Wars, to tell you, really hard.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure somebody has tried, though. Somebody at some point. There's got to be like, how many subliminal messages have you ever stumbled across in Star Wars?
It's always funny because the directors always happen to mention things after the fact. You're like, okay, yeah. And it's usually, in the old days in the models, if you really look at the models close, they used to put all sorts of shit in the models. Like literally all the time. Because the model shop used to like, fuck them, we're going to do this. And so we would, when I first started, we used to go up to the thing and they would point it out to you like, this, I'm not sure you've seen this one, but when they built the Close Encounter ship, they glued a R2-D2 figurine to the bottom of the ship, painted it silver, and so you can literally see it sitting on the ship. So it's pretty
cool. In which movie is that?
That was in Close Encounters. So they were Star Wars and Close Encounters were working side by side. So the Star Wars guys glued and painted it silver, and no one ever caught it. But you can literally watch the movie. You can see an upside down R2-D2 on the bottom of the ship rotating around.
That's incredible. I got to imagine part of your job, when I think about this, is like making sure all these departments, like art department, isn't trying to sneak in dicks everywhere. Because if I was on the art department, I would be doing the exact same thing. This Little Mermaid, castle thing.
Yes.
But like, you kind of have to be like, hey, everybody, can we just reduce the amount of bullshit that I'm going to have to find later and edit out?
So I will say something. This is what I find funny. So my husband used to work at Disney and Disney Animation back in the day when they used to make all these movies, right? And we lived in Hollywood at that time, and he would come home at night, and I used to say to him, like, if they just knew how many queer people were making their movies, I swear to God, people would melt down, because it is like a fairy show behind the scenes, and everybody's just like, but Disney's like, no, it's a bunch of families. I'm like, no, it's a bunch of fairies. They're running around.
It's so true.
It's actually amazing that there weren't more subliminal dick jokes all over the place, or maybe they weren't so subliminal, we just haven't noticed them, but still, that's amazing. So I do want to ask, objectively and for reals, which is the best Star Wars movie?
Okay. Can I give you two answers? I'll tell you why. Because there's all of Star Wars. And so The Empire Strikes Back has always been my favorite movies. One of the movies where I remember...
That's the correct answer. Yeah.
That's the correct answer.
So, yes. It's one of the movies where the moment from walking in the theater, the seat I sat in, the popcorn I ate, what I did after it, like, is ingrained in my head. Like, it was an experience that just like... Literally, I saw it in Texas, and I just remember it was hot summer, going into the theater where it was freezing cold because they turned the air conditioning up so high, and then watching Hoth and all that stuff. And then walking straight to Kmart and making my grandmother buy me an action figure. Like, that moment, I need this right now. Yeah. And so that clearly impressioned me for a long time. Even though I did love Star Wars, the original episode 4, that one just had something. The storytelling was just super clear.
Yeah.
My favorite one that I've done is Rogue One. And I think that was because it was so different than all the other Star Wars. And there's a whole, and I won't go into this, but, that whole movie was kind of put together by a friend of mine, Carrie Hart, myself, because Kathy had asked us to find, she's called it a District 9 version of Star Wars. And it was meant to be like this small, little, intimate Star Wars story. So when I was flying to London, when we were shooting The Force Awakens, I saw on the plane this movie called Monsters, which was directed by this guy named Gareth Edwards. And it was a small little movie where he did all the visual effects shots himself. And I called my friend Kieran. I'm like, we need to meet this guy. And by chance, he was shooting this movie, Godzilla. And so I went out and met him. And we were like, okay, what do you want to do? And John Knoll, who is our visual effects supervisor, had written this one-page idea he wanted to do about this guy stealing the things. And he gave it to me. And he said, you think this would ever make a movie? And so Kiri and I took that piece of paper to Gareth and said, would you ever be interested in trying to figure out how to do this? And he was like, oh my God, he's a huge Star Wars fan. Oh my God, I got to do this. So that I have such a strong connection to the thread of that entire project from start to finish and just how it got made. So that's I personally, just because I love, the back end is a whole different story, but the front end of the movie was really exciting for me to do.
I think that's what's interesting. What you say about Empire Strikes Back and your experience as a child, kind of going and the popcorn and the smell of the theater. That's a point I make constantly. Is that film has a part of your film experience is beyond the film, right? And so, you know, all these VOD and stuff like that, it's fine, and it works, but you're missing an element there that kind of has that nostalgia and stuff. And so I'm always a big believer in kind of like film and theater have a lot more to do with each other and can help each other a lot more. But that is, you just said, like, that is part of your experience. You didn't mention anything about the shots or whatever. And now the story was great, right? That was a great movie, but a lot of that was the kind of experience of going to the theater and the excitement and all of that stuff and buying the action figure. So I think including a lot of that stuff is so much more helpful to making these movies more successful, because it becomes an experience and not just like, oh yeah, I think I saw that on the plane once.
Yeah. So I have a 13-year-old daughter, right? So for me, trying to drive that experience of the theatrical experience, because right now, I mean, her teen years were basically spent in front of TV because it's COVID. We just watched all the movies on TV. So for her, I took her to the opening night of Barbie. We were, you know, I dressed up in pink. She dressed up in pink. We went
good for
friends.
you.
We had you know, it was such an experience. She'll never forget it because it was such an experience. And then we did the same thing for the Taylor Swift concert. We made friendship bracelets. We went to the Taylor Swift. And I just said, do whatever makes you happy. Because I'm like, these are the things that are going to click in her about why theater is so important. Because if the experience is not like I'm sitting in my living room. Yeah. And I wish we could do that. I mean, on opening night of Star Wars, you do get that because you get the people who dress up and do that sort of stuff. So, but it is those moments where people really they need to convert the theatrical experience into being much more than just, you know, sit, watch, go. Right,
100%. It's an entire experience. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. You know what? So obviously, we could ask you 9 million questions about Star Wars, and we will ask at least 7 million more. But also, we are really focused on parenting and gay parenting, and so I'm curious a little bit about what's your family makeup. You have a 13-year-old daughter. And a husband who is still also in the industry as well? Or
no, Patrick's my husband's name. We about 16 years ago, we had this kind of midlife crisis, and it was kind of like we wanted to get married. This is before you could get married in the States. We wanted to get married. We wanted to have a kid. We kind of like, this was not working for us. The industry wasn't working. So we both quit, and we moved to Vancouver, Canada, because we could get married in Canada. So we moved to Canada. I was going to open a pie shop. Patrick went back to school.
Oh my God, how cute.
I love pie. He went back to college to become an urban planner, and strange, weird thing happened. Kathy Kennedy called me out of the blue and asked if I would produce this movie called Tintin. And I'm like, I've never produced a movie before. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even know you. Like, why are you calling me? And anyways, and then I fell back in, and it's like, it's the mafia. You can't get out and start back into it again. But, no, we moved to Canada, and, you know, we wanted to have a kid. And I remember asking my mom, like, we want to have a kid. My mom said, you can't take care of a dog. How are you going to take care of a kid?
So Mom. We were shady. That's some shady shit.
Okay,
so
Mom.
It's super weird because the next week we went and got a dog, and we're like, we're going to show her. And so that poor dog was so babied. I mean, oh my God, that dog was like.
Please tell me you didn't have a stroller. Please tell me you didn't have a stroller.
We didn't have a stroller, but that dog was like, for, you know, the 7 years before Laurel was like, that dog was a thing. Like, it was everywhere. And I would take pictures and send it to my mom. I don't think she quite comprehended her comment and the dog. She never put the two and two together. But in my mind, it was like, I can take care of a fucking dog. I can do it.
How dare you? I'm going to spend 7 years of my life proving you wrong.
I'm combing her hair every morning, for God's sake. Look at this. And she could care less. At the end of the day, she could care less. So,
right. And now I know, full disclaimer, Jason and I went to the same high school, though I am much older than he is. And you have several brothers, right? And then my understanding is Patrick is also from a family of boys, right? So, and you guys have a girl. I mean, the grandparents must have gone, first of all, ape shit over that. But what's that like?
Well, let me give you one of the gay things to talk about, which is always funny. So I'm an identical twin, and my brother's straight, and I'm gay. So it's always been one of those things where my parents were like,
totally identical.
Yeah,
totally identical.
No, I don't understand. And then I have two younger brothers, and Patrick has two younger brothers. And so all our brothers all have girls. It's super weird. All boys, all girls. So we all have girls. And, you know, Patrick and I are the two that just don't happen to have any sort of like, we live in San Francisco, so we don't have any of our families back in Denver and New York. So we have no family structure around here. So us raising a girl has literally been internet books, just like calling friends like, this is happening today. What do I do? Like, because we didn't have any experience in the girl world at all.
Me neither. I have a little girl, and I literally sent her to daycare today with the most atrocious hair. I had no idea what I was doing. I was like yanking her. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry. Just go. They'll fix it at daycare. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hair care. I have to tell you, hair care, it gets only worse. right?
Oh man!
And now Patrick and I are constantly like, she should go like that. Maybe let me just kind of. She screams at us like, maybe I just kind of did this.
I will say, back in my days of blogging, I remember there was one YouTube account, and I'm sure there's many of them, of a single dad. I believe he was just divorced, but he would make YouTube hair tutorials for dads to be able to do their daughter's hair, and it was really intricate. And I thought, what a great element of modern society. Thank goodness, because we do need those tutorials for sure. I watched a bunch of them, and I became a French braider because
I need that. I need that. Laurel plays on a competitive volleyball team, so before every tournament, they have to put their hair up, right? And all these other moms, like in 2 minutes, do this like crazy French braid, double French braid, blah blah blah. And I literally like, it's a ponytail.
I saw an amazing TikTok the other day, and it was a dad, and he had a vacuum hose, and he put like a barrette or a hair tie, like a scrunchie on the end of it, and then he sucked the daughter's hair up into it, and then just let it roll it right down, and it was fucking perfect. Although if I went to my 1.5-year-old with a vacuum to her head, she would scream,
exactly.
Yeah.
I was on the volleyball court with a vacuum, I'm sure people were like, what the fuck?
Like, this is why gays shouldn't have children.
This is why.
Exactly.
This is why.
Right here.
So then, also speaking of your daughter, has she ever been, a background or a bit part in any of your movies by chance?
She's never been a background actor. The one time I took her to set was on Rogue One, and it was literally, we were going to London for vacation while we were shooting, and so I'd like, come to work with me for the day. So I brought her to set. I set her in the director's chair, because it's a friend of mine, and put headsets on there. And I did not realize that it was the day that Darth Vader was his first day on set, right? So
nice.
She's sitting there with the headphones on watching the screen, and I'm sitting there with the director, and Darth Vader walks behind her and taps her on the shoulder. And she was probably 6 or 7.
Oh,
and
my God.
She didn't know what to do, and she just stared and froze, and she looked at me. And then he walked off onto the set and stood up on the Star Destroyer, and she was like, I don't know what just happened. And I said, well, he's an actor. She goes, but he looks just... Anyways, it was just... That was the one moment I was like, oh, yeah, and she'll remember that forever, right? For those days.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully not one of the many reasons you'll send her into therapy, but she might have to, like...
You'll send her to therapy for a lot of other reasons, but maybe just not that one.
So I produced this anime movie your kids would love. No one else watched it because it's crap, but called Strange Magic, which I did a long time ago.
Noted.
And when I showed it to the first cut to Laurel, she had a lot of comments, and so I was writing her comments down. She watched it. Anyways, she ended up dictating a line in the movie that we actually used. I remember writing the line down and taking it into her, and it changed the whole scene for us. And I can't remember what the word or the line is, but it was funny because I was, relying on a 6-year-old to tell me dialogue for a movie at that point in time.
So I have worked in television the majority of my adult life, but I still don't know, and I think a lot of our listeners don't know, so maybe you can answer this to me. What does a producer do? What does a producer do?
Yeah, okay. So it's a tough question, and because there's some that do nothing. No. So
I've met those. I've worked for those.
I'll break it down in a couple ways, because there's film producers. I won't get into Broadway producers because I don't do that, but I can tell you film and TV, and they're two different pathways. So in film, the capital P producer, we call it, is the person who actually works with the director and the writer to create the creative content of the project, right? So they're the ones that sit down, they pull out this project and they take it to a studio and like, we want to make this. Then the executive producer is then hired saying, go make this. Figure out how you actually hire the crew, where we're going to shoot it, what's the cast look like. So my job is basically taking a physical... So at Star Wars, Kathy Kennedy would come up with a director and a project, and she'd go, here, this is what we want to do. Give it to me. And then I would go hire the crew, set it up, figure out all the things, and then put the whole thing in, budget it, plan it out, schedule, and then run it through the entire production process. So at Lucasfilm, I was the head of production, which basically means all the post-production, visual effects, creature shop, costume, they all reported to me. So I ran all the various, and from film, TV, and animation, I ran all 3 divisions. So in TV, you flip it. In TV, because they use writers as the key creators versus just and they're also the producers. They're called executive producers. So you flip the dynamic where the executive producer is now on top, and they are the people who run the show. The producer is then the physical producer, the person who physically makes the show. And then you get stuff like associate producers, which are basically assistants usually, or they've been with the director for a long time, and they have all sorts of intermediate pieces, but those are the two main positions that are kind of run in the industry right now.
So you're like the daddy of Lucasfilm.
Well, I was. I don't work anymore. Yes, I used to be. Yes.
Got it.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
And the zaddy. I would also add to this that for your knowledge, Jason, for Broadway producers, it's the people who give money and want to stand on stage for the Tonys.
Correct. I was just when you said the theater's different, I was like, yeah, theater producers are like this. Give us money, please, and that's it.
And I want
that's their job.
And I want to be on the stage for the Tonys, and I want my name in lights.
Yep.
So did you always want to be the head zaddy of Lucasfilm? Did you live your entire life thinking I want to be in Star Wars?
Yes. So when I saw the episode 4, Star Wars: A New Hope, when I was 7 years old. It was my very first. I mean, it's so cliche to say this. I know it sounds horrible. I saw it when I was 7 years old. It was the first movie my parents took us to. Again, I remember the experience. The theater was sold out. My mom sat me and my twin brother in the front row because it was the only seats that we could have together. And at 7 years old, being that close to like the thing coming over your head, and like it was, I remember walking out of there shaking because I was like, I don't know what I saw, I don't know what this is, and I knew at that moment like this is what I have to do, and so, and the same thing for Troy. 3 of my brothers are all in the film business. One of them is a football coach. 3 are in the film business. So we knew at that moment like we had to get in film. So, and Star Wars was our thing. And so we got a paper route so we could buy a camera. We would buy all the action figures and we would make little movies. And so we started making movies probably when we were in 3rd grade, just making various little shorts. And we did that all the way through junior high and high school. And Star Wars was like the dream job. Like we wanted to do Star Wars. We all wanted to do Star Wars. And both of us ended up going to school in Montana, which is not a film school or anything. And it's long. That's a much longer story why I ended up in Montana. But
a lot of prairie dogs out there. A lot of prairie dogs.
A lot of guns. They ended up going to school there. But and there's a whole story there. But the gist of it is that after I produced Tintin with Kathy and Steven Spielberg, Kathy got offered the head job at Lucasfilm. And at that time, we were living in New Zealand. I moved to New Zealand to produce Tintin. So I was...
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, we bought a house down there. We were all set up. Patrick was working for the government.
Were you going to stay?
So I was supposed to make 3 Tintin movies back to back.
Wow.
So we bought a house and just like, let's move. We went down there. Kathy called and said, hey, this is going to come out in the trades today, but I've been offered the presidency of Lucasfilm. And would you be interested in coming and working with me? And I didn't know what to say. I was like, fuck yeah.
Cat's out of the bag. I'm definitely moving to LA.
Or also, but also 3 10-10s is too many. That's 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. That's too many 10-10s.
That's 30. Yeah, it's 30.
Yeah.
So we, I moved to Lucasfilm and started working there in 2012.
And
it was
now,
great.
wait a minute. Also, didn't you say that your daughter was born during Tintin? So
my daughter was born while I was producing Tintin. So the movie took 4 years.
But not in New Zealand. Oh, okay.
No. So she was born. She was born through a surrogacy. So we did that while we were in LA. And that whole process, I mean, I always say to my brother, you got drunk and fucked your wife and had a kid. I spent 4 years in court. that whole roller coaster of when we decided that we wanted to do this to like how do we do this? Where do we go? There wasn't, I mean, at that time, there wasn't a lot of resources and there wasn't a lot of people doing this. So it was like, I literally got on the phone and just called these surrogacy companies like, hi, we're a gay couple. Will you help us? And some would say, sure. And some would say, yeah, for $100,000. I'm like, what? So ran around. So it took 2 years before we found a service out of San Diego, which was great because it was this woman who set up the service that dealt with military wives. So all their husbands were off in Afghanistan and they were trying to figure out how to make money. So they're yeah, well, we'll have kids yeah, exactly. So they could stay home and raise their kids. And also, so we reached out to her. And when I first got on the phone with her and kind of told her our story, she's like, absolutely. She was so super positive. Like, yes, we can do this. Yes, yes. And we spent 2 years with her going around. And they would, to do this, you have to go meet these surrogates and stuff. And the surrogacy laws at that time are super strict. They're like 3 states. It was like Vermont, Colorado, and California. So they would find a surrogate that we'd be interested in. We'd have to go meet that surrogate. So we fly out there and Usually it was not the person you dreamed of. I like, like, meet me in my trailer park. You're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you go and you're like, okay, I don't know if this is the right place for us. So we kept just kind of falling out. And so we had given up. We took a year off. I called her back again and said, I'm just going to try it one more time before I have to go to New Zealand. I've got to New Zealand in 18 months. So can we see what we have? And so she sent us 5. And they don't send you pictures. They just send you like a number and like a description of the surrogate. So we went through the 5 and we're like, well, only one of them makes sense to us. So I called him like, only this one makes sense. And I guess we'll do an interview. She goes, well, I got bad news for you. And I said, what's that? She goes, you picked me.
Oh.
And I said, I said, what? She said, yeah, so I can't be your coordinator anymore if you want to do this. And we had been 4 years talking to this woman every day.
But you didn't know what she looked like.
Never met her. I mean, literally,
it kind of sounds like a rom-com where like the whole movie they're like dancing around, and then he was like, "I've been here the whole time." Yeah.
Well, it was so we were like, "Oh, okay." And both Patrick and I it was just made sense. Like we both had spent so much time with her. We didn't care what she looked like. We just knew her as a person at that point. We're like, yes, this makes
there was
total
trust
sense
there. Yeah,
there was trust. So we, when you make that decision, then you start the legal process, and you go through contracts. You go to court. You have to go meet the family. Like literally, like was like, hi, this is my husband. Hi, and we did a traditional surrogacy, which means she is the egg and the mother. So the whole thing. So basically, the way it worked for us is like, when she was ovulating, we get a phone call, come down, and we'd have to, both of us would go into bathrooms and jack off for her while the family's watching TV in the living room. Like literally, the husband's there, and they're all watching TV, and
not awkward.
So stressful.
Probably not awkward for her.
Everybody knows what everybody's doing at that moment. Everybody is well aware of what's happening.
And your performance anxiety, you're just thinking, this is like,
the kids are running around past the bathroom door, and I'm like, they're going to burst in on me. I'm like, it's so fucking stressful.
Can you guys quiet down? I can't hear the Bellamy. I can't hear the Bellamy if you keep yelling.
I'm like, oh my God. So, and we actually took us the 5 times we had to do that. 5 times we drove down to her house in San Diego. Hi, we're here again. But at the 5th time we were so like, everybody was so like over it. Like, oh my God, not this again.
This is hilarious.
And she got pregnant. And so that was super exciting. It was also, became super stressful because I was hoping to be 5 months earlier versus 5 months later. So we were in the midst of shooting Tintin at that time, and it's a motion capture
in New
movie.
Zealand.
So, no, we shot it in LA because Steven shot the motion capture part of it. We did all the capture work in LA. And then when we finished, she got pregnant while we were shooting. When we finished at that time, I actually lived in Vancouver still. So I would fly down Monday through Friday and work in LA and fly back home. She got pregnant. And so Laurel was supposed to be born like in January. She called me on December 1st, like, she's coming now. So we panicked, got in the car and drove down to LA. And then she didn't have her till the 28th. So we sat in LA for 4 weeks, like waiting and waiting. But I was still producing that whole time. So, and we wanted to be involved parents. So instead of like, just like, and my parents are around. So Patrick and I took turns. We rented this little house down in a little beach town, and I would work during the day and Patrick would take care of her. Then I would stay the night with her. Like I was just a total wreck because I was up most of the nights with her and, trying to, and we didn't know.
Not easy.
We stupidly didn't take any classes about like how to change a baby or, day one when she came home from the hospital, we took her out to a restaurant to have dinner. We're like, let's go have dinner.
Sure. Why not?
Why not?
She'll have the steak, medium rare. And
we read something that babies like loud noises. So I remember taking her to bars, not smoky bars, but just really loud bars. And we're like, oh, she'll be fine in the bars. She'll just hang out
which she probably was.
Yeah, until week 2 when Patrick's mom showed up and was horrified about the things we were doing. Like, what are you guys doing?
That's one of my favorite lines from Sweet Home Alabama. Is like, you have a baby in a bar.
I mean, you weren't exactly taking her to gay bars at 3 a.m. to help her sleep.
Was she at the Eagle? She was at the Eagle at like 2 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah. Nobody knows what they're doing. None of us knew. I did 2 surrogacies, and both times I had a couple days in the hospital, and the nurses were super helpful with that stuff.
Yeah.
But I also, the second we walked, I will never forget the automatic doors of the hospital opening, and I remember for the first time in days going outside, and I remember thinking, they're just letting me leave the hospital with this baby. I kept waiting for somebody to meet me and be like, okay, I'm going to show you how. And I was like, oh no, that's me. I'm now in charge and I don't know what I'm doing. And oh my God, somebody should put a stop to this.
Yep.
I mean, you probably relate to this story. Driving home from the hospital to the house. I've never been so stressed in a car with a kid in my entire fucking life. Like, we were both driving so slow and shaking the entire time. Like, oh my God, we've got to be super strict on this thing. So
yeah, and you had a couple beers to calm yourself down. Yeah, just to really get there.
Exactly. A shot before you got in the car. Yeah, exactly.
But also, I love to be able to. One of my very favorite bits of unsolicited advice I got before becoming a dad was a woman. I was backstage at a show in the middle of a quick change, freaking out to her that, like, what if I don't recognize that there's a fever? What if I don't realize she has a baby a diaper rash? What if she and she just reached out to me and held my arm and she said, "You'll know." And I love being able to just convey that we all do have the instincts for this. I mean, even had you not had your dog as training wheels, you would have figured it out because you're a smart person who can just figure it out.
It is weird that you keep trying to feed your daughter kibble. I think that's a little weird, but I think...
And making her sit before she eats, but that's cool. So we all have our own techniques.
I will tell you the thing that I thought most interesting to us. So, again, two dads, and we were, at 9 months we moved to New Zealand. We took her and moved to New Zealand. And so that's an overnight plane flight, and we spent 9 months raising her and taking care of her. We got on the plane and, ear pressure, she was really not doing well. So she was crying. So I took her to the back of the plane. It was kind of every mom on that plane felt sorry for me. Like, oh, your mother's not here. Let me take her. And I literally was at the point of like, I got this. I mean, it was a line of women trying to tell me how to do it. And I was like, okay, it's super weird. Like, a man can't take care of a baby? I'm like, you gotta be joking me, right?
We talk about it all the time on here. We talked about it last week with Joe Dabrowski, who's not a dad yet, but we were saying, like, trust us, the first thing you're going to hear from when a random woman walks up to you on the street, the first words out of her mouth will be, "Where's the mom?" or, "Oh, it's dad's day off."
And that's not going to change for decades, no. I wouldn't think either. And
because that's based in patriarchy too.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so I am curious also, does your daughter have interest in staying in the business, or what are her interests now?
She's interested in volleyball. So I'm now a volleyball dad, which she plays competitive volleyball, which is like overwhelming the amount of time that we spend in a volleyball gym or traveling with volleyball right now. So she loves that. She's actually a really good writer. She wrote, when she was 9, she asked if she could make money. And I said, well, how are you going to make money? She goes, well, can I get a job? I'm like, you can't get a job. She goes, well, how could I make money? I said, what do you want to do? She said, can I write a book? I said, if you want to, sure. So, who cares? Whatever, go write a book. Well, she wrote a book and she figured out to self-publish it on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
She got it published. And we never even read it. The first time I knew that the book existed was a Jewish studies professor from UC Berkeley called us and wanted to talk to her. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, we just read her book and I'm really impressed with the book. And I said, what? So he talked to her. And then Patrick and I had to order it off Amazon because we didn't have a copy. So we ordered a copy of it. And I have to tell you, I've never been flabbergasted before, because when you think of a 9-year-old writing a book, you're thinking of a 9-year-old like I really like dragons and fairies and blah blah. She wrote a book about the Russian Holocaust and how a little girl, 13-year-old girl, who has to escape her family to get to America to save her life. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, who writes this shit?
Where did she get?
She has a Pulitzer. You're like, where did you get the Pulitzer from?
Where did she get this inspiration? Are you just a Holocaust-heavy family?
No. So she read the Diary of Anne Frank and then just started doing her own research and then just decided she wanted to write this book. And so, and just one of the book, I would even say this even the ending is profound, where we really like, my husband and I finished the book and we looked at each other like, what the fuck? Like, that's super fucking weird. Like, who writes this? I can't write like that. She's 9. So we both really would like her to be an author, because her short, every time she writes, I'm like, I'm just going to write a short story. And she's writing a short story for Halloween. And it's like, it's a horror story. And she pitches it to me. And this whole thing about this kid who has this monster that constantly, and the monster is anxiety. And it's the reveal at the end, this whole thing. I'm like, nobody's writing about anxiety as monsters at 13, for God's sakes. Why are you doing that? I'm like,
isn't it so great when your kids come up with something that is in no way because you told them to do it or you asked them to do it. It was totally uniquely from them. And you're like, oh my God, they're becoming an independent person.
Also, per our earlier conversation before Jason came on, David, is guilt as a parent. And I'm like, wow, my child is not doing things like this, and that makes me. I'm like, what guilt?
And that's a direct reflection of your parenting, Gavin.
Of me,
your terrible parenting.
Because it all comes back to me. And speaking of me, please, can you tell us anything to further my/our infatuation with the zaddiest of zaddies, Pedro Pascal? Just tell me anything.
Funny.
And you don't have to tell us a bunch. Just tell us like cut or uncut. That's like that's all I need to know.
I think it's really funny is that I went to go see The Creator, which is a super beautiful movie to see if you want to see it. The story's great, but my friend Garrett directed, so I went to go see it. And I decided to take two of Laurel's friends' dads. So I'm like, okay, this will be a dad bonding moment to go there. Both super straight guys, both tech dudes, sitting in the thing, and there's a trailer for some Pedro Pascal movie. I don't know what it is. And the dad sitting left me, leans over to me and the other dad and goes, man, he's fucking hot. And I looked at him and I thought, I didn't know what to say. I was like, what? That's true, but I just didn't expect it to come from a straight guy. And I was like, I guess he's kind of taken over on the whole thing. So I don't know much. I mean, I have to be honest with you. I'll tell you a tiny little secret. So Pedro was barely in season one, meaning, he was working on other projects. So when we cast him, we actually only had him for 3 days. He came in and did a bunch of voice work. There was a person under the mask who did all of them. And then we had one day where he took the mask off in the final scene, and he's revealed. He shows up on set for that one day. We're literally all prepared to shoot his one day of actual footage. He walks out of the makeup trailer with his script pages, not looking, walks into a 2x4, slices his head wide open. His wife's a plastic surgeon, tells him to get in the car, go straight to the hospital. They rush him to the hospital. So if you look at him, you can actually see it looks like he actually has a cut because he literally walked into the door and we only had 6 hours to shoot the whole scene. And I was like, oh my God, are you shitting me?
I will say that is a cute paycheck to workday ratio.
No,
cute ratio. I enjoy that.
I don't know why it never occurred to me that he was not the body as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
I am so fascinated by, and we're running out of time, so we can't go too deep into this, but the entire, the stagecraft volume that you and John and everybody created to shoot this show that is becoming kind of a standard practice. Can you talk us a little bit through how that show was shot and what the stagecraft and the volume is?
Yeah, I'm going to try and make a short story of a complicated issue, so I'll try this quick. Mm-hmm. So this actually all goes back to Tintin. So when I was producing the movie Tintin, Stephen and Peter wanted to make a video game out of the digital assets that we had done for Weta. So I contacted Ubisoft and said, hey, can you take our assets and make a game? And they said, you can't. We don't share video games, and movies don't share these digital assets across media. So when I started at Lucasfilm, I remember asking the CTO, why can't video games and movies share these digital assets? And they're like, well, you could if you worked in a game engine. I don't know if you guys know what a game engine is, but video games are rendered in real time so that you can play it on your screen, whereas movies go through a Maya pipeline, which means you render it after the fact. So you don't actually see what you're doing until after, way, way after. So we came with this concept of trying to make a movie, TV show, and video game simultaneously utilizing a game engine as the driver for it. And at that time, there was a video game called 1313 that Lucasfilm had shut down. And it had built all the digital assets for it. So we decided we were going to shoot these, turn this into a movie about Boba Fett. It was going to be a movie about Boba Fett. It was going to be a movie or a TV series. And it was also going to be a video game. And we were going to do it simultaneously. We hired a director. We got the whole thing going. And there was one point in the thing, a la what I just told you, where Boba Fett takes his helmet off and reveals a human. Well, everything was high-end animated, right? And after doing Tintin, I said to the guys, I got so much pushback on what Tintin looked like and the uncanny valley, but when the helmet comes off, it has to be a real human. It can't be a digital human or the thing will fail. And they're like, oh, we'll shoot it against green screen. I'm like, everybody knows how green screen works. You see the green spill, you understand what it's like. It can't be green screen. So I need you guys to figure out a different way to do this. Two shots, right? So we were shooting Rogue. I was on the set with this DP named Greg Fraser. And I said to Greg, I've tasked all these technical people how to solve this problem. And he goes, shoot him in front of an LED screen. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, just set up at the LED screen and shoot him on the shot. And I said, that's not going to work. He says, give me $1 million and I'll prove it to you. So I did. I'm like, go figure it out. So he built this 12 by 12 screen and he shot a bunch of footage here in San Francisco on the back line, and then he would stand stormtroopers in front of it and walk them around. So we were like, and so he brought it back to the Lucasfilm, and we watched it, and you couldn't tell the difference between stormtroopers that were really standing in set and stormtroopers standing in front of this wall. And so we showed it to Kathy, and she thought it was great, but she said, no one's asking for this. So, by the way, she had fired the director. We fire a lot of directors. She had fired the director. The project fell apart, and now we had this technology that had nowhere to go. So she's like, if somebody ever asks for this, we'll pull it back out. So that was literally like 2015. Years go by. Jon Favreau comes in and pitches this concept on The Mandalorian, but he wants to do it like The Jungle Book. I don't know if you know The Jungle Book. It was basically all shot on a green screen, and they digitized the work in it. So he comes in, he pitches this whole concept. I want to do this thing, and I called Greg, my buddy Greg Fraser, and our CTO Kim Library, and I said, guys, the thing that we figured out years and years ago, it's this. It's he needs to see this. So the guys did this big presentation, same thing. Nobody believed it. No one thought it was going to work. He gave them another $1 million. Like, let's prove it. Build a mini version of it, and let's try to shoot it. So we did, and I remember the amount of stress that this whole thing was going to fail, like was going to work. All the Disney execs, all the execs were on the stage for this test, and we did the test, and it was another Boba Fett character in a real world environment, and we shot it. And I remember when they turned the volume on and the camera came on, literally you heard gasps. People were like, "Wow!" I mean, it was so stunning, and it was that moment they're like, "Go!" and that started.
The rest
so that
is
was
history.
the first. Yeah. So it was. I always say to people, it wasn't what you think it was. It was actually trying to solve another problem. It just happened to be down the pathway. It ended up being that issue.
And those Disney execs were so used to like mocap and green screen and all that kind of look. And then all of a sudden there was this new thing. And I think that speaks to why I think the heart of the Star Wars enterprise, and I think you all have figured this out, which was the idea of maintaining some sort of practicality in the way you shoot it. Because when you did those full virtual movies, they just kind of were empty, right? There was, and then when you kind of combine, when you harken back to, no, we're going to have some sort of practical effects in front of this stuff, all of a sudden the movie came alive again. And I'm just, that technology is so fascinating to me. I love it.
Mm-hmm. This was fantastic. Jason, thank you so much for just sharing all of this knowledge, and I would love to do parts 2, 3. Let's make this, in fact, a trilogy. Let's make this interview a trilogy series.
This is episode 4, and we're going to go back to episode 1 and talk about other things.
Same time, same place.
Thank you so much.
So much for demeaning yourself to be on our stupid podcast, Jason.
Anytime, guys. Anytime. Thank you.
So my something great this week is daycare friends who become real friends. So as we know, like you become like pretend friends for the 45 minutes you and your kid's friend plays in the playground or whatever. And most of the people are terrible. Most people are terrible, period. And 2 different daycare friends who we've kind of hung out with have started to become like actual friends. And Brian and I, my husband and I, joke all the time. We're like, we would hang out with them even if our kids weren't friends. Like they're like really cool. Anyway, we got to a place now with one of these people where they were in a really tough spot with work and everything, and they needed somebody basically to pick up their kids at our daycare and drive them to their house where their babysitter would then meet them. So like they trusted us enough to give us their car, pick up their 1-year-old and 4-year-olds or 1-year-old and 5-year-old and put them in their car and drive them across the highway. Yeah, drop them off at their house. It was just like a nice little moment of like, no, these are like our real friends now. They trusted us with their kids' lives. So that's pretty something great this week. Yeah,
that's pretty great. So I was recently going down a social media rabbit hole, and because I've actually been spending more time on it of late, and I came across one of those cheap T-shirt companies that was just trying to sell me cheap T-shirts. But boy, did they rope me in. Now I didn't buy any of them, but they had so many references to the 90s. Probably the 80s, that I thought, oh, they know their audience for sure. And one of the T-shirts was, surely not everyone was kung fu fighting.
That's cute. Yeah, that's 80s. Yeah.
I love those clever things. And another one was, I came on Eileen.
Have you seen those pumpkins online where people are making the pumpkins and they get hot glue and they put like basically like cum all over the pumpkin's face, and it has on the bottom it has a little label that says, "Hi, my name is Eileen." Yeah, that maybe our Facebook feeds are a little different, but yeah, no, I've seen that quite a bit.
And that's our show.
Sorry.
If you have any comments, suggestions, or general compliments, you can email us at gatriarchspodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can DM us on Instagram. We are at GayTriarchsPodcast. On the internet, David is at David FM Vaughn everywhere, and Gavin is at Gavin Lodge when on Tatooine.
Please leave us a glowing 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks, and we'll use the Force next time on another episode of Gatriarchs.